Check this out. Ooh, this is a 2100, something like that. Trek, early 2000s, late 90s. You're talking about a quill. Well, in any case, this is an awesome ride in for an awesome tune-up. Been ridden a lot, Ragbri and so forth. So yeah, original owner. Yeah, let's just talk about how cool this bike is and how well it's held up over the years and more years to come after this. Welcome back to Another Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on this old bike series. Yes, if you haven't seen my channel before, I've been in the industry for over 35 years. Parents and I used to own a bike shop in Park, Colorado in the 90s. Worked at a local shop here in Fort Collins in the 2000s and ooze. And hey, lo and behold, I have a garage shop now currently. So I've been refurbishing bikes, and with all my expertise of the 35 years and older, I can actually provide good vintage videos of putting these things back together and upcycling so you can get back on that old ride, which is probably better than the newer ones today for the same price. In any case, we're going to talk about this tune-up. Customer, great customer, came in. They're having me do the tune-up on this. This particular bike has been around for several decades. Late 90s. You can tell by the actual 1-inch headset quill, which means it's a threaded headset. They did a transition in the late 90s to the early 2000s to A headset styles with the 1 1/8 inch. So that kind of a quick identifier on the headset there. In addition to the componentry, the 105 STI 9-speed componentry with a triple up front, which is awesome for mountain riding that we have in Colorado here, or anything with major hills, is a great group set. If you can find one near you, grab it. It's awesome. This particular Shimano group is a workhorse. They held up really well. You can tell by the heads, they're a little bit older, so it's the earlier iteration, and they changed the covers, but the componentry has been pretty much about the same. This particular componentry, it holds up well, it cleans well, and actually we can upgrade it. But let's talk about some of the componentry on this. One other identifier of the vintage of this is the Rolf wheels. Rolf and Trek got together in the mid to late 90s where they had the pair spoke system, which the copyrights carried on over with Bontrager in the early 2000s. But this is when they had beefier rims, so you had less cracks around the actual rim bed itself from the drive side, and they were designed to cut out that oscillation at faster speeds. Feeling how these are, and I've worked on several ones of these, they are actually pretty solid. This rear hub probably needs to be basically taken apart, repacked, and put back together. They're in for a drivetrain clean as well, but Rolf wheels, they're pretty slick. They do have new ones out today, so check them out. I think it's Rolf.com, not Rolf Bikes, because that was the Trek version of it. But looking at the frame, it's aluminum frame, or not lugged, but actually welded. Before this vintage, they lugged and actually glued their aluminum frames together. So this is when they actually did the welding manufacturing in Waterloo, Wisconsin, or Whitewater. There's 2 facilities at the time. They were trying to build most of the bikes in the United States, and they got really close, and then things fell out around 2007, 2008. But in any case, prior to welding and just doing lugs, well, the acquisition also Gary Klein and Gary Fisher. Well, Gary Fisher, as you know, is the grandfather of mountain bikes, but Gary Klein was the actually one that did the high engineer. He graduated from MIT, granted 2 process. When they acquired him, all of a sudden they started welding their bikes. Those techniques were actually used within the actual frames of the Trek, Le Mans, Gary Fisher, Klein's, and also Bontragers, although they didn't make aluminum Bontragers. It was only steel frames at the time, which is rarely known because he used to be a mountain bike king of steel. Let's check out some other stuff. All right, with a beauty like this, whoo, yeah, we got some serious work that needs to be done to this, but nothing that's out of the ordinary. In tune-ups within bike shops, this is probably when you're upper level tunes where cables and housing will be replaced, bar tape, ultrasonic clean the shifters as well as the crankset and the rear derailleur, front derailleur, and cassette. Also going to be truing and adjusting the hubs and the wheels. And when I talk about truing, it's basically you're tensioning these spokes so they're not too tight, equally even tension, and also straighten the rim, making sure it's centered to the hub, even, and also doesn't have any hops. So there's a three-dimensional aspect to wheel truing, which goes into this little tool right here. But before I do the truing, I clean the wheel up in the tank, shop sink, also adjust the hubs first, because if the hub is loose, you're not going to have an accurate reading with these gauges here on this. To do the hops, to double check that, if it has any issues, you can tell when you actually roll it. If it does have pretty significant hops, then you can take the tire off to do so. Some wheels will have spokes integrated within the actual rim bed, so you'll have to take the tire and the rim tape off to actually access those. But luckily for us, these are exposed, but the upper end Rolf wheels were not. So we're going to set those aside to clean them in a second. That's how you get the front one off. And to the rear, you drop it down to its smallest cog in the back, which I already did. Also like to dock it down to the smallest up front. That locks the chain to its full resting position, so you're not fighting this derailleur and the tension to get that rear wheel off. To release the wheel, first you need to release the brake. That opens up the calipers. Most brake systems will have some kind of quick release. That's a caliper or a V-brake style. Disc brakes do not. So you don't have to worry about that. Pull the quick release and boom, should slide out. As you probably noticed, the front has safety catches, the rear doesn't. Look at the attention to detail. They have like Trek stamped here. On some of them, they'll actually put the serial number and also the size on the inside plate. And these are also removable dropout hangers, which are actually painted to match, which is kind of cool. These can be replaced, and they still make them today. Wheels Manufacturing is a company that makes a whole bunch of different ones for different companies, so you can get a replacement hanger if need be, if this thing snaps. But if you look at the welds, pretty beefy on the back portion, and as you progress to the front, and this is called a C welder, B welder, or B welders and A welders. A welders are going to be the welds that you see that are more prominent. B welders are going to be a little more hidden and do like the braze-on kind of thing, and C welders do the bigger goobers, basically, because they're welded up and they go assembly line to the next welder to the next welder. Then it gets polished up and ready for paint. If they get painted and they get parts put on too soon, you'll start getting some like little indentations of parts fitting on there, but in this case it's might not too bad. Also matching paint. This color too, it has faded a little bit. Now we'll be doing some detailing to try to, obviously I can't reverse the fading, but I can also though make the color and the glitter on this paint to pop. Whatever's left, I do refurbishing, not restoration. So you will still see some of the scarring, which she said battle scars are fine, just as long as they're all cleaned up. And the finished product is, once it's done with this detailing of polish, then I put on a ceramic coating to protect the rest of the paint from fading from UV. Also, water beading helps shed all this dirt, so it makes it easier to clean, and it gives a super slick shine as well. Also, these were made, again, in Waterloo, Wisconsin, made in the United States. Also a handmade sticker here. It's really just the frame. Forks were built somewhere else. The wheel parts were built somewhere else, but I think they were assembled in Trek where they had assembly line. But other than that, they didn't like the mismatched color here, so I do have a chainring set that will be replacing that. And since I'm going to be replacing the cables, I'm just going to go ahead and cut them and start taking parts off. So since I'm not saving any of these, I'm just going to snip, snip, snip and get to it. I got my ultrasonic tank at temperature, flushed it out with fresh water, ready to go. I do save these housing bits for measuring to cut new ones, but I do double check it to make sure they weren't too short to begin with. One of those things. Same thing with the chain kind of thing. We are going to upgrade the chain. They were I talked him into doing the wax, which will help the new componentry last a long time. The still one that has a quick link there. I will also save the chain for length to cross-reference it. You kind of see all the gunkiness that's going on in here. But we're going to get this taken care of. What's nice about wax chains versus using your regular chain lube, you don't get this black stuff all over you. It's a lot cleaner and it lasts a lot longer and saves your componentry. And it just sounds like I'm a broken record. Take the pedals off, clean them too. These are vintage Shimano pedals, two-sided. Pedal forward to release. So what's cool about this vintage, this is right when we had the shop in Parker. We sold quite a few of these. This is where you had your nice high-end aluminum, decent aluminum frame made in the United States with a triple. And it's very popular in Colorado due to the fact that we have mountains here. And a lot of people did the ride the Rockies and triple bypass and all those fancy rides. And definitely was nice to have that extra gear to do so. Unfortunately, today's standards is basically to get rid of the triple, question about the double, and they're going by the 1x. I don't like it because it doesn't give you that smooth transition, find that perfect gear ratio. Because when you do the 1x, you make this cassette, which is on here, super big. You see how tight those cog jumps are between each one? That way you can find that perfect gear tension while you're riding. And this is a long cage derailleur, which is, these are becoming more unicorns. The short cage for these go for used for like 20, 30 bucks. The long cages go for over 100. So keep that in mind. If you need to part out your bike and you have a triple, you can probably get your money back out of it, that kind of thing. Grab one of my this is what they call a braze-on front derailleur. It has an integrated, or not integrated, but it's separated from the clamp itself, which means you can get different clamps for different frame sizes. So if you're looking for a new front derailleur, you want to get a braze-on front derailleur so you can actually get the clamp, unless you know the clamp size. They are measured out. I believe there's like 4 different sizes. A couple for steel, titanium, one size for aluminum, and another for carbon fiber. A lot of them will be stamped inside here. Sometimes matrix, or standard, which is this is 1 3/8. You can find the conversions online. This is also proprietary Shimano band clamp, but you can use any kind of knockoff that works for that. What we're going to be doing is ultrasonic cleaners, getting all this dirt and gunk out, nasty stuff, as we speak. So I'm prepping my parts, getting ready for the ultrasonic cleaner basket, and there's my ultrasonic cleaner, and there's my fresh hot water. So it should be pretty close to 50 Celsius. And I proceed to take the brake, and again, save the housing bits, make sure I can recut those. Free the cables away. And this one has a bolt on the back side. Failure rates on these frames are pretty minimal. Did not see a lot of these fail. I mean, obviously crashes happen. Better go find that. But for actually, cracked frame and that kind of thing, very little. These are pretty thick frames. And with that thickness ensures that the longevity of it. They did test cycles on these back in the 90s, and they were testing their aluminum frames, they were testing their steel frames that they had, but they were using true temper, I believe, and then they were testing the carbon fiber OCLV. And that's what really drove the testing, is they needed to prove that the OCLV carbon frames that they're building had a longer flex cycle than aluminum, because they're lighter weight in aluminum and better flex cycle than steel and titanium. And titanium is closer to the weightness, the lightness of carbon fiber. But lo and behold, today, they went super nuts on carbon now. It's layered by sheets, and they could really thin it out in areas where you don't need it for lightening up, and then they beef it up in areas where you want more rigidity, stiffness. and they can design them for flex and so forth. Oh, that was just a lot out. Okay. So I take these parts out because I need to clean them, and also you want to lube those. Goober. Woo. Because you want to have the customer have the ability to reach down and do a little adjustment to ensure that they can get the cable tension where it needs to be. So they have two different sizes of bottle cage Allens. These are small ones, are not standard. Don't particularly like the small ones per se because you have smaller, less material to work with to loosen them up, especially if they get stiff. That's where these Wera German Allen wrenches come in really handy. They're a little bit designed a little bit differently on the head. It's more of a cup design around each point, which actually grabs the stubborn Allen fittings a little better. I have 4 different sets of Allens. Reason being is you get a stubborn one, sometimes you need to use a different Allen to get that to release that bolt. So I have the Wera ones, I also have my fancy Silka. Those are the super nice ones with the high tolerances. They really are pushing the limit on it. But if you get a stubborn one, you put that in there and you tap it, it'll fit into these little grooves a little bit better sometimes and give you that ability to pull apart. Also, I found with the Torx, same situation, especially when you're talking about like disc rotor. Got a lot of heat going on there, contaminants. Those boogers are going to be on there. I've cut off my fair amount just to get the rotor off to save the wheel. Not a fun process because it's hardened steel. It's a time-consuming thing. Definitely what they call a time toilet. Yeah, so I take the cages off. Same principle. Clean these lube up. Make sure they are able to come back off. And then onto the crankset. Here's our crankset. This one doesn't have extracting bolts, so I get my leg up in there between the fork blades, not to get all weird and kinky. It just gives me leverage and holds the bike solid as I'm putting all the torque in. Don't forget to grab that washer, because if you put your tool in there, the extractor, that will compress that washer, and then you're kind of in a mess. Same thing, so grab this, do a little leg kick, get a little close and personal with it. This one actually wasn't torqued on there too tight. And there's my wash again, making sure I have that so there's no boo-boos going up later. Have the right tool for the right part. This is a CCP44. This is a Holotech splined extractor. So you thread in this portion first. Basically, this anchors to the actual crank arm, and this wedges a pin against that bottom bracket spindle, and this is where you really get that leverage piece going. That one actually is pretty good. Sometimes I have to use cheater bar to pull those off. And that's how that push pin and pushing that out, right? So then I finger tied it, but you know, you want to use the wrench. I knew I hit the flush point, so years of doing this. So the chain rings, you know, they work fine, but lo and behold, magic, I got myself a replacement. These are actually Ultegra, so I'm upgrading them, but they're going to be matchy, should fit, give you the same range, 52. Actually, middle is going to be a little lower, so the 42 is going to be a 39, and then 30. So that's going to shrink that up a little bit, make it a little bit easier for that mid-ring. As you can tell, they switched out the mid-ring because she does a lot of riding in the mid-ring. So this will give her that lower range even, and I don't think she's going to have a problem with that whatsoever as in comfort. I mean, there's a difference between a 39 and 40 or 42, but mid-ring, you can play with the back cogs to alter that too. Oh crap, we're up Put my tool up there. Okay, so now same thing, rinse and repeat. Make sure you back the tool out so you don't have that false sense of contact. And boom, there, then you can feel the tool engage. This is where you get weird angles, so what you can do, not too hard, but you just fit this in so it holds its place, so you can grab a little angle so you can get a little bit of torque on that. Not to a point. Be careful, not too crazy, but enough to, you know, give it a little love tap. Ah, there you go. Voila. That's your spine. Holotech design. And these are hollow inside. That was a big old rage of the 90s. Remember a Shimano clinic in Boulder, Colorado that I went to. Checked it out. And then the cartridge systems were game changer. Ooh, that's kind of crunchy. I got replacements. Believe it or not. Also, on these old school ones, you got a serial number here, serial number stamped, model number, well that's the serial number, model number on this guy. And sometimes you can pull this plate off, which I will, and you'll see the actual size stamp. What I liked about the Treks, they used a metal one of these, not a plastic, so well, there we go with that unique, see, it doesn't want to come off. Yeah, we may have to bust out the super tool. All right. What are you? Are you a 20? No. Are you a 15? Kinda. Maybe you're in between. Now this is where it gets really troublesome. Okay, so maybe the other style. That's not quite fitting. Then I have this guy, which doesn't fit because it's in between. Definitely a 15. All right. So I was able to wedge an Allen in there. So the reason why these get sticky is because it's underneath. See all this contaminant, gunk, gets in there, super dirty. And then I clean that all off and clean this. So you have a WTU serial number here, then you have the other serial number, which is a WL001. So either one you can identify with for, you know, if it gets stolen or report it, that kind of thing, then you got your model number there. And that is kind of crunchy. So I'm going to look into replacing that for them. Also, I'm going to do the headset. These are some good new customers, and they saw me on YouTube. Yeah, and you know, we take care of our YouTube community here at the I Know a Guy Bicycle. So, all right, there we have mostly stripped. I'll get to the shifters here. Got to check that bell. All right, well, gonna do some cleaning. This is my time where I gotta turn on the tunes, get focused, and get a little efficient. Plus, it's getting a little bit later, so I might have to resume this tomorrow. And we'll do a parts review. If I come across any major somethings or boo-boo areas, I will identify those in this next step. If not, we'll just do an overlay of the parts and do a kind of a verbal recap of what I found on this beautiful Trek. 2200, 2100, 22? I think it's 2200. Hey guys. Yeah, shut up legs. Alright, love the Colorado sticker too. In any case, this is one awesome bike. I'm excited to get this thing just dialed and ready for its another thousands of miles of adventure. And I'm super happy that I came across where they found me. And it's a marriage made in bicycle heaven. In any case, let's review these parts. Well, here we have it. Wheels are cleaned up and true. Yeah, pretty smooth. Oh, let's review some parts. Well, I got the new chain rings there, new chain, but here is the brakes all cleaned up. Haven't lubed them yet. I'm basically going to be reassembling. What? We got some ball bearings here. Yeah, we had to going to be repacking the rear hub, so that needs some loving. And after that, repack, we'll do the truing of the wheels. So that's how that process goes. Clean the jockey pulleys, both front and rear derailleurs, cleaned out the shifters, going to flush that with some new lube. Pedals as well. There's the crank set. And what? Oh man, really going in. We got headset bearings that need to be flushed out and cleaned. And took the stem and bars off so I can actually get the fork off to clean it too. The bearings, that is. We'll be doing the detailing on that. It's been cleaned, but the detailing of it will be after reassembly. Bottle cages, cassette, whew, that turned out pretty clean. Well, we'll see how this thing holds up with the new chain. It'll skip some pops. I've already warned them that it might be time to replace it. And wait, what's going on here? The bottom bracket that's currently a BB55 is grindy, not as smooth. I do have a BB 6500, which is the Ultegra version, which is in real good condition. So we're going to put that bad boy in there for them. So that's going to definitely upgrade the bottom bracket and make it a lot smoother. Here's the frame, all clean. Hasn't been detailed yet, so you can see the vast improvement just cleaning it with, I used purple power diluted with water, and I used carb cleaner on the tricky bit areas to kind of get that gunk off. But you got your battle scars, those are just not going to go away. I refurbish, I don't restore, so I basically make better for what's there and not make it as like new. And then you got your classic, you got it, shut up legs, and Colorado sign up front. Here we go. Well, gonna turn on some tunes, put everything back together, start cleaning and polishing, and put some ceramic coating on the frame, and waxing the parts and ceramic coating them as well. And we'll do a review once it's all put back together. Well, here we have it. Trek 2200. Old school with icon componentry, all tuned up. Clean drivetrain, new chain rings and chain. Cassette, we're going to take it for a test ride, see if that cassette is not worn. Yeah, let's check this out. It turned out quite immaculate. Being a beautiful day in the neighborhood, let's go for a ride. So, did not bar tape it up due to the fact I'm going to do a fitting when they come pick it up and make sure the color is right. Didn't find an exact blue, but in any case, we're going to take it for a quick spin. Right off the bat, I notice my bars are off a little bit, so I'll have to realign that. Hard to tell when it's in the stand, but we're going to check these gears. Go light and polite because it is a freshly waxed chain and new. So first I'm just going to go through each one of the gears, make sure it shifts to where it needs to go. Yep, got the granny gear. That's awesome. Jump back up to the middle ring. That works just fine. Watch out for traffic ahead of me. Now, while it's in the middle gear, I'm going to drop it down to the smallest. And this has new cables and housing too. And the housing sometimes will compress. I try to pre-compress them, but sometimes they compress later and causes the shifting to be off. And that's why these little barrel adjusters down here are so important, because I can do a quarter turn while riding and kind of dial it in if need be. Drops to the big one. Yep, we got big and big. All right, so I'm on the smallest cog currently. I'm gonna put some weight and tension on it, see if that new chain pops over the old cassette cogs. Second gear seems to be pretty good. It has to be high tension for it to skip. Third is good. Fourth, it's good. It's pretty much, you'll know right off the bat, it'll be like a big pop. Check out my video on that on worn out cassettes and chains. Yeah, but that works out pretty good. Oh, brakes feel really good. So you're not constantly shifting up and down on that mid ring. It's more of a central max kind of thing. Wow, that was pretty awesome. Straighten out the bar, I need to pull this out and adjust the cap. See, there's a bolt. This is what they call a quill stem. And you've probably seen videos on YouTube. Oh, look at my other project I was working on. See how the sun is coming in? Yeah, this is December. South facing garage, keeps nice and toasty. So for me, I've always been pretty lucky on dead on center. It's pretty close, just a hair notch. They do make one out there that mounts to the bar, and that has a laser pointer. Okay, so typically you'd have to tap these down to get that wedge to break free. Since this has just been reinstalled and re-greased, I didn't need to do that. But when it sits there for a while, it has it saying, and I notice this one's a little in a little bit, so I'll fix that too. So tighten that up. Don't forget the cap. Get that bad boy back in there. And this is why I kept the tape off, not just because of this alignment. Is I'm not sure if this rider wants it to be here or further down or further up, or the bars to be adjusted. Typically when you do those, the pro fits, the high-end elite bikes, like we used to sell Cervelos back in the day at Lee's, and basically you'd leave this all undone for people to adjust and do the fitting, and then for some Cervelos back then you cut the seat post. Wow, look at that glitter. Woo! Alright, let's talk about this bike a little bit. Let's throw it in this rack and got the sun. Alright, what we got going on? I mean, it was in for a tune-up, the guy's Magic tune-up, which would detail the frame, put a nice ceramic coating on there, clean up as much as possible. Of course, you're going to still have boo-boo scars on there, but that just, makes it tough. So what did I find that really kind of stuck out? Well, the chain rings, they wanted to be matchy-match, so we switched those out. The chain was stretched, so clean that off and did a nice wax Connex chain, which is a removable link, which makes it easy to re-wax and so forth. The wheels are good. The hub needed to be overhauled with bearings and new grease. The headset needed to be overhauled with new bearings and grease. And also the bottom bracket, which goes on the crank, needed to be replaced because the one that was in there is finally giving. It filled rough, let's put it that way. Other weird quickitinks, the brake pads, whoever installed them previously, were backwards. This little bolt on the back needs to be on the back. The pad goes in forward, and that's the release bolt to pull it out. It is flipped another way, so what you're doing is you're putting a lot of tension when you're braking on this bolt to hold the pad in there, where the brake pad itself holds it, so the force is holding the pad in place, which if it's reversed, it's not. Therefore, it's a safety issue. They look fairly new, so somebody just got confused. Easy to fix. Flipped them over, right correction, all done and good. So that was one. Another interesting tidbit is the tube had a little bit of a sneaking out of the rim bed, after I cleaned it up, I was like, what the heck? So what happened is that tube got underneath the bead. I deflated it, put it back underneath there, and aired it back up. And obviously that cut the tube, so I had a flat tire in the morning. So I replaced it with a new tube, and the tube that was in there was a little too big, too wide. It was a 28 to larger size. This is 25 wheels, tires, so therefore I put the proper tube in there. Not a big deal, but it could have been it could have blown out. I'm surprised it didn't, but hey, needless to say, it held up. Everything worked out really good. I mean, it cleaned up really good. Just frame and fork, the wheels are in really good shape. With that new bottom bracket and the bearings being repacked up front, and the hub being overhauled with a new chain and cassette, or new chain rings. Cassettes are still good. Under pressure, under load, was not popping. All the gears work just great. This bike will last this individual another 2 decades. I mean, it's a solid bike. It still has parts readily available to work on, all those things. So it's going to be awesome. So just have to build the invoice and let them know it's ready to go, and most likely they'll come in and maybe over the weekend or whenever they're available, and I'll set up my fit area to do the fitting. So just a double check. She said she's pretty comfortable on it, but you know, it's always good to put another set of eyes on it periodically just to make sure everything's solid. And there we go, fine-tuned and ready to go. Thanks for hanging out with the garage with me, and until next time. Well, that concludes this episode of This Old Bike. Thank you for tuning in and watching through the final reveal of the perfect bike for you. Maybe, maybe not. But in any case, I hope you learned some things along the way in the journey of a bike mechanic refurbishing these particular beautiful gems of the past, which are very relevant of today. Thanks for tuning in, and you will find other videos like these. Go ahead and click here to enjoy more refurbished, detailed bikes that are from the past.